Yeah, so the two cousin products I mentioned are the IgG 2000, which I how I sum it up is for infections and it's quite good for loose stool, cleans up other toxins like you mentioned. And then the MegaMucosa has some of the same immunoglobulins, but also I think amino acids to build the mucosal barrier, which is really important. And when we test people, almost everyone has a thinned mucosal barrier, which is protective, full of immune products. So they're both important. I know the MegaMucosa can help for constipation and food sensitivities is another quality I give it. Sometimes people say, could I take both? And yeah, you absolutely can because they have a different profile. So for me as a mold practitioner, and I'll share a bit of my story, these two products are fantastic. And, in the functional world, when we get a little, I think, too carried away about like Lyme disease and parasites and all these things that are very intense to treat, if
Mhm.
we can rebuild our gut and our immune system with some of these products that are quite gentle, I don't hardly see any. We do have a couple questions about like little side effects, but really they're quite gentle.
Mhm.
They can rebuild you like nobody's business. So that's the MegaIGG is my favorite product now for emergencies. But I lived, we can all develop IBS wherever, but I lived in like very rural South America, no dreamscape here, like rough, like no filtered water, like rough. I got sick a lot, and ever since I had loose stool,
Mhm.
even cutting out gluten and stuff like that, it was just always a struggle for me. And I think just because you came out with this product and I was just trying it out, I like literally is not my situation anymore and hasn't been since. So it's very powerful. So yeah, I'm a big fan. What was I going to say? Yeah, you could potentially take both. Your total gut restoration plan has the MegaMucosa as part of it.
Yeah.
You want to talk about why you picked that one for kind of most covers most bases for most people?
Yeah, we were really looking at formulating a product that contained key ingredients to help rebuild that lining of the gut, right? And so, if you think about some of the principal features of the lining of the gut, we have the mucosal layer, and there's two distinct structures within the mucosal layer, and then we have the tight junctions as well in between the cells. And then there's microbes whose job it is to maintain and build and that lining structure. So when we think about the gut lining, there's two real important things. Number one, providing the building blocks that are required to rebuild those structures, right? And those are nutrient building blocks that are important. Number two is providing things that support the growth of the organisms whose job it is to rebuild those structure. And number three, reducing the toxigenic load in that space so that lining and all that can actually rebuild and heal. An analogy for that I give so people understand that a little bit better is like, if you get a cut on your hand, it's going to heal itself if you just leave it alone, right? But if 2 3 times a day you're scratching at it and rubbing it and all that, you're irritating it, it'll never heal. It'll always stay red and it'll never heal, right? That's the same thing that happens in your gut. The lining of the gut can't repair itself, cannot heal if it's constantly irritated and inflamed, right? And so that's why to address those three components, we have key things in the product. We have the IgG in the product, and it's at 1 gram in the MegaMucosa. So you can absolutely add in IgG through MegaIGG 2000. You can take 8 9 grams a day. It's perfectly fine. So
Wow.
if you took the MegaMucosa and you took the MegaIGG 2000, you'd have 3 grams per day, which is a great dose. And so we've got the IgG. The IgG is the part of not irritating the cut, right? Not irritating the environment, allowing an atmosphere into which it can rebuild. Then we have these 4 key amino acids in there. And those 4 key amino acids are the building blocks of the mucosal structure. So without those in adequate amounts in your gut and in your diet, you can't rebuild the mucosal structure adequately, even if you have all the stimuli to do it, right? So there was a study published that we found that showed that in a damaged lining of the gut, when you added these 4 amino acids, it increased the synthesis of mucin, which is that important mucus layer, by 95%,
Mm.
right? Which means that if you don't have adequate amounts of this amino acid, of these 4 amino acids, that means your mucin synthesis is 5% of what it should be, right? So even though you're trying to create the right environment for your lining to rebuild, if you don't have the building blocks, you're negating all that benefit. And so how many people know how many, L form of amino acids they're taking? They don't. So it's much easier to just put it in the product so that you're getting the right amount there. Then the other part of that product are polyphenols, citrus polyphenols in particular. Now, the reason why we put polyphenols in there is because polyphenols feed Akkermansia. Akkermansia muciniphila is a very important microbe in maintaining the structure and integrity of the gut mucosa. Polyphenols feed Akkermansia. The other thing polyphenols do, or two other things. One is they act as antioxidants, so they reduce the oxidative stress in the lining of the gut. And then the last part is they get converted to urolithins. And urolithins are important for stimulating cells to rebuild themselves. And these are our own cells, right? The mitochondria within cells, stimulating them to refurbish and rebuild themselves so that each cell is youthful and healthy, every single day that goes by. And for that reason, it's important to have polyphenols because urolithins only come from certain microbes metabolizing polyphenols into urolithins. You can't get it from your diet. So we wanted to add these essential components that would support the microbes that do the rebuilding, support the actual building structures, and then create the environment under which the gut lining can rebuild, right? So all of that thought and all of that research background and all went into MegaMucosa.